The dilemmas we face in pregnancy and thyroid disease. Before I go into that, some historical overview. So the ancient Egyptians were aware that the anterior neck enlargement frequently occurred in pregnant women. Soranus of Ephesus described neck swelling in the women after pregnancy in the 2nd century. Early 20th century, it was known that the BMR, basal metabolic rate, increased in pregnancy, and that goiter and thyroid hyperplasia were frequently observed. 1944, the first use of thiauracil to treat hypothyroidism in pregnancy, documented by Edwin Astute. Teratogenic effect of methimazole reported by Samuel Milham in 1972. And then there was an association between hypothyroidism and miscarriage risk described by King and Herring in 1939. 1950s, Evelyn Mann reported the developmental deficit in the children of severely hypothyroid mothers. Adverse effect in 1999 by James Haddo and colleagues in the New England Journal of Medicine. Adverse effects, cognitive effects of maternal hypothyroxemia described by Pop and colleagues. Then Susan Mandel and colleagues told that there was a need for increased levothyroxine in hypothyroid women in pregnancy. And then last but not the least, Dr. Alex Stagnaro Green were the first to report association between TPO positivity and miscarriage. Let me begin with an introduction. So pregnancy has a profound impact on thyroid gland and thyroid function. The gland increases in about 10% in size during pregnancy in iodine replete and 20 to 40% in iodine deficient. The production of T4 and T3 increases by 50% along with the 50% increase in the daily iodine content. Pregnancy is a stress state for the thyroid, leads to hypothyroidism in patients with decreased thyroidal reserve and iodine deficient and postpartum thyroiditis in women with Hashimoto's disease if euthyroid before conception. You see the prevalence, which is around 2 to 3% of pregnant women have increased TSH. 0.2 to 3 have overt hypothyroidism and rest have subclinical. Hypothyroidism is still lesser in around 0.1 to 0.4. Untreated, both maternal hyper and hypo clearly increase the risk of adverse obstetric and fetal events. So both maternal and fetal hypothyroidism, they have detrimental effects on fetal cognitive development. It increases the risk of spontaneous miscarriages, gestational hypertension, preterm deliveries, low birth weight, neonatal respiratory distress syndrome, and fetal deaths. And majority of high-quality evidence suggests similar outcomes in subclinical hypothyroidism. So let me begin with the case. Should we do screening for TSH during pregnancy or not? So a 27-year-old planning for pregnancy, started on folic acid. She's read about thyroidal disease and concerned regarding the same. There is no family history of thyroidal or other autoimmune disorders in the family. She asked whether she should do thyroid function test. So what do you want to do? So the recommendation as of now, the ATA is identification of hypothyroidism during pregnancy is largely based on screening using TSH levels. According to the ATA, there is insufficient evidence to recommend for or against universal screening with TSH at the first antenatal visit. As of now, the ATA only recommends targeted screening. So they say if your woman is more than 30, strong family history, autoimmune disorder is there, type 1, previous history of miscarriage or preterm, past history of head and neck irradiation, patient on levothyroxine, iodine deficient area, then you can do it. But the Indian Thyroid Society recommends universal thyroid screening for all pregnant women. Now, what is the problem if you do targeted screening? So this was a study done in the UK by Bijay Vaidya. So they found that targeted thyroid function testing of only the high-risk group would miss about 1/3 of the pregnant women with overt or subclinical hypothyroidism. This is the new data which came. Universal screening from thyroid disease during pregnancy should be performed. And you can see the first author is Alex Stagnaro Green. They found that when you do only targeted, you are missing in some cases up to even 85% of the cases of hypothyroidism. So, and thyroid is a simple disorder. It has the requisite for doing a universal screening with respect to thyroid disease. So it's because it's an important health problem. There's an accepted treatment. You have an easy way to diagnose it. There's a recognizable latent and early stage. So all these features it fits into for doing a screening. Probably in the future, I think the ATA would also change its recommendation. So Indian Thyroid Society recommends screening for all pregnant women for hypothyroidism. Next case, a 30-year-old pregnant woman comes with normal thyroid function test and strongly positive thyroid antibodies. She's concerned about the same. How would you counsel her? 20% of all pregnant women in the first trimester of pregnancy are TPO or thyroglobulin antibody positive and euthyroid. And 16% of the women who are euthyroid and positive for TPO or TG in the first trimester will develop a TSH more than 4 by the third trimester. And 1/3 to half of them who are positive for TPO or TG in the first trimester will develop postpartum thyroiditis. Observational studies have shown an increased risk of spontaneous miscarriage and premature delivery, placental abruption, and postpartum thyroiditis. And two major hypotheses proposed. TPO antibody positivity reflects a general diffuse autoimmune process, potentially resulting in rejection of fetal allograft, or TPO antibody positivity drives thyroid dysfunction and subsequently results in poor obstetric outcomes. So a study by Daniel Glinor. So they prospectively looked into 87 healthy pregnant women, normal thyroid function test and TPO antibody. At delivery, 16% had a TSH more than 4. So the conclusions were women with asymptomatic autoimmune thyroid disease carry a significant risk of developing hypothyroidism. So universal screening for anti-TPO antibodies not recommended, and also treatment. But then pregnant women with TSH more than 2.5 should be evaluated for TPO antibody status. Euthyroid pregnant women who are TPO antibody or thyroglobulin antibody positive should have measurement of the serum concentration performed at the time of pregnancy confirmation and every 4 weeks throughout mid-pregnancy. At least every trimester you can do. Now, what if you treat these patients with levothyroxine? In these patients, what can happen? So this is known as a tablet trial. So we have had observational studies which showed increased risk of miscarriage. So in this trial, the use of levothyroxine before conception and through birth did not improve live birth rates among euthyroid women with antibody positivity and a history of miscarriage or infertility. So totally 20,000 patients were eligible and 470 were included in the primary treatment outcome analysis and 470 in the control group. So in the levothyroxine group, the primary outcome did not differ compared to that of placebo group. It was not statistically significant. Similarly, the secondary outcome like pregnancy at less than 12 months after enrollment, pregnancy outcome like clinical pregnancy at 7 weeks, ongoing pregnancy, miscarriage, they were all not significant. So the conclusion from this study was the use of levothyroxine in euthyroid women with TPO antibodies did not result in a higher rates of live births than placebo. Now, coming to the case 3, what is the TSH target in pregnancy? So you have a 24-year priming coming with the following reports in the first trimester. TSH 2.3, T3 1.8, T4 15. Would you treat her? If yes, how would you treat her? So if you see the levels of TSH in the first trimester varies between 0.03 to 2.3, second trimester 0.03 to 3.1, and the third trimester is 0.13 to 3.5. The previous cutoffs were based on older studies where it was 0.1 to 2.5 upper limit, second trimester was 0.2 to 3, and the third trimester was 0.3 to 3. And they were based actually on the older trials. But on adding the Asian, Indian, Chinese, and Korean data, there has been an upward shift in the TSH values in the normal healthy pregnant women. And in the previous trials, the antibody status, iodine sufficiency, BMI, and known thyroid illness were not known. So now what they recommend is, when possible, population-based trimester-specific reference ranges for serum TSH should be defined through assessment of local population data representative of a healthcare provider's practice. And the reference range determination should only include pregnant women with no known thyroid disease, optimal iodine intake, and negative antibodies. So if you don't have this ranges, if a population-specific value is unavailable, then the upper limit to be reduced by 0.5 to 1, and the lower limit to be reduced by 0.2 to 0.4. So, I mean, this is when the population-specific value is available. For example, we did a study in Bangalore. So the cutoff for healthy population TSH is 0.4, it's 4.1. So the pregnancy cutoff can be reduced by around 0.5. So we could make it as a cutoff of 3.6. But then if you don't have, you take the upper limit as 4 itself. If no data is available, can use a value of 4 milliunits per liter as a reasonable cutoff to decide on therapy. High-risk groups cutoff could be 2.5, like TPO positivity, recurrent or previous pregnancy loss, or the patient is on artificial reproductive technologies. But once therapy is started, maintain at 2.5. So coming to the last case, because I'm running short of time, I have 2 more cases, I won't do it. So you have another pregnant woman, TSH normal, free T4 0.8, T3 normal. What's your diagnosis? How do you treat this patient? This patient has isolated hypothyroxemia. So isolated hypothyroxemia is characterized by normal TSH concentration with a low free T4, less than the 5th or the 10th percentile. It has been found to be a risk factor for neurodevelopmental deficiencies, at least in observational studies. This is one of the studies, the Generation R study. And here they found that maternal hypothyroxemia is a risk factor for cognitive delay in early childhood. So what about therapy before that? So this is a CAT study done in the UK. Here what they found was antenatal screening, but then at a median gestational age of 12 weeks and 3 days, and maternal treatment for hypothyroidism did not result in improved cognitive function in children at 3 years of age. And then you had another New England Journal article, treatment of subclinical hypothyroidism or hypothyroxemia, who were all anti-TPO positive also. So here, placebo-controlled trials involving pregnant women with subclinical hypothyroidism or hypothyroxemia showed that levothyroxine beginning between 8 and 20 weeks of gestation did not significantly improve cognitive outcomes in children through 5 years of age. I won't go into the detail. So the conclusion from this was treatment for subclinical hypothyroidism or hypothyroxemia beginning between 8 and 20 weeks of gestation did not result in significantly better cognitive outcomes in children through 5 years of age than no treatment for these conditions. So at present, the ATA does not recommend the use of levothyroxine therapy in patients with isolated hypothyroxemia. I think I have 2 more minutes. So 32-year-old healthy women presents for evaluating following a missed menstrual cycle. She believes she is pregnant. Medical history is notable for Graves' hyperthyroidism, treated with radioactive iodine ablation 2 years ago. She is treated now with 212 micrograms of levothyroxine, and the most recent TSH is 1.3. She visits at 21 weeks gestation. The TSH on levothyroxine right now is 0.96. So what additional testing you want to perform? No additional testing, fetal TSH by chordsynthesis, maternal TRAB, maternal FT4, maternal TPO antibody. In women with history of Graves' disease who have undergone radioiodine ablation or thyroidectomy, TRAB may still be present though she is now hypothyroid, and maternal thyroid function cannot be used as an index of Graves' disease activity. So you measure TRAB at 20 to 24 weeks to determine the risk of fetal and neonatal hyperthyroidism. If you have a TRAB more than 3 times upper limit of normal, close follow-up because the risk to the fetus is increased. No role for chordsynthesis. TPO also could be positive, but not much role. So I will go to my last slide, conclusions. Thyroid dysfunctions are not uncommon during pregnancy. They have to be treated on an urgent basis with levothyroxine if hypothyroid with trimester-specific TSH cutoffs is the goal. Monitoring to be done every 4 to 6 weeks until week 32. Isolated hypothyroxemia as of now does not require treatment. Now, the new data for TSH is if data is available, if no data is available, can use a value of 4 milli-units per liter as a reasonable cutoff to decide on therapy. In high-risk groups, cutoff to be 2.5, especially who have a TP positivity, recurrent or previous pregnancy loss, or on artificial reproductive technologies. But then once you start them on therapy, maintain at TSH less than 0.5. Gestational transient thyrotoxicosis is self-limiting, requiring only supportive care. Patients who are now hypothyroid post radioiodine ablation or surgery for Graves required to monitor for TRAB, especially at 20 to 22 weeks of gestation.